Good evening, folks. Welcome to Activate Worcester. Ron Motta, your host. And this is our first post-Labor Day show that we're doing. And it seems like summertime has finally sprung here in New England, although we get tornadoes and wild thunderstorms and all that sort of thing. But as you know, if you've been watching the show for a while, and I think this is our 89th show, which is hard to believe, but we've done that many so far, and counting. When you've been watching the show for a while, you recognize that about every 3 months we do a sports-themed show. And that's what we're doing tonight. Please don't turn it off, even if you don't like sports. I think you'll like this one. Because normally I've had my son Leon, and he's done a very, very good job of bringing us up to date with the sports scene here in New England, and specifically in Worcester. Well, tonight we have Lee's nephew and my grandson, my oldest grandson, Chris Motta. And Chris is joining us. I had to grab him pretty quick because he's on his way back to school. He is going into his junior year at Portsmouth Abbey. It's high school. And he's proudly wearing his Ravens shirt. He's played varsity football, basketball, and baseball. And this is a team that won championship a couple of years ago and did very, very well over the last 2 years as well. And he enjoys it, loves it, and we're really happy to have him on the precipice of show business, as they say. And hopefully we can get some close-up shots of Toph as well. Toph, great having you.
Thanks for having me.
And in addition to being a very fine young man, really good ball player, good student, and everything else, this is also a guy that's figured out a way to not only blog, but to make money blogging, because he's actually a professional blogger, and he's being paid by a company in the United Kingdom to do his blogs. And when he does his blogs, they approve it first, and away we go, and then you're in business. This might be a career direction for him as well. We'll see. We'll see. When you have the grades he's got and the school he's going to, he'll have lots of opportunities. But one of the opportunities that he had was in the local baseball scene. And if those who remember the tornadoes, Walter Bird, who's a featured columnist, now a senior editor, I guess, at Worcester Magazine, when the tornadoes were winding down, they did a feature article, and Walter did it on Chris, because Chris at that point was kind of an intern there doing some things and enjoying that whole scenario, if you will, unpaid, but still enjoyed it very, very much. Exit the tornadoes. 2 years later, along come the Bravehearts. Walter at Worcester Magazine, WOMAG as we call it, ties in with Chris again and does a feature article on him about this whole evolution and how the circle is now completed. And he worked with the Freudian slip, he worked with the Bravehearts this summer, and they want him back again next summer, and he's going to do it. But the thing of it is, he's enjoyed his experience with the Bravehearts. And tell us about the Bravehearts. Tell us from your perspective the evolution of it, how it evolved to where it is now, and the kind of season that they had. Mike's on you, kiddo. Go for it.
Well, I started out working with concessions, and I was just doing the usual concession gig. I was frying chicken, French fries, cooking burgers, dogs, and it was great. I loved it. It really was. It was a great time. The people there are awesome. John Creedon, who bought the Bravehearts, and he's the owner of the concession company. They're a local food distribution company. He really did a great job with the team. and Dave Peterson as well, the general manager of the Bravehearts. They did it together. They did a great job assembling a team, and it brought a cool environment back to Worcester that I think Worcester's meant to have a baseball team, and they just did a fantastic job. I can't say enough about how well they did setting this team up in Worcester.
How did they do at the box office?
It was really surprising. Every game, it was something else. There was just always people showing up. It was consistent. I think they led the league in attendance. And we actually sold out a few times toward the end of the year, and it was just fantastic to see. The more people showed up, the higher the energy was, and ramped the kids up, and they ended up getting the championship out of it. So happy to bring the championship back to Worcester.
Well, the thing of it is, those of you who remember, after the situation with the tornadoes, and they had a lot of success early on, but because of out-of-town ownership and absentee ownership and all those things, people had a lot of natural doubt, among other things, skepticism about whether or not they could make a go of it. Well, it proves that if you have the right ownership, who understand the market, and Creedon's been in business over 100 years in the Worcester area, so they know it and know it cold. They make a great product in terms of food. Their food concessions were fabulous this year. Prices much lower than they were in the past, much better quality. Hell, they did lobster nights there. When was the last time you had lobster nights at a ball game? Well, they did it twice. Okay, they had every Friday night. It was the 4th of July at the HIP, the Hanover Insurance Park. They had a full fireworks, not, a couple firecrackers going off. They had 15 to 20 minutes that rivaled what the city does on the 4th of July.
It was absolutely incredible, the firework display they put on. I remember the first time I saw it, and I can tell you everyone in the audience was pretty much in awe of
shock and awe, boy. Yeah. I tell you, it was great.
It was incredible. And like I said, Dave Peterson and John Creedon, they did a fantastic job with everything.
They deserved the success, and they proved that if you put a quality product out there, both on the field and off the field, you've got the components for real success. They were successful, and Dave, who I've gotten to know pretty well, Dave was a guest on this show. My word to Dave was, when he was on, that at the conclusion of the season, we would do a little bit of a wrap-up for the Bravehearts right here. And we're glad to do it, along with one of his number one employees. Okay, but that's a good segue. Worcester has always been a very, very strong baseball-oriented market, and continues to be so. For those folks who might have forgotten, Ted Williams' first home run in organized ball for the Red Sox took place right here at Fitton Field in Worcester. I think that was 1939 or whatever it was. So if I'm off by a year or two, shoot me. No, don't, but I'm pretty close. But on a more global basis, this has also been a professional, big-time support area for all the Red Sox teams. And as we speak, literally every one of the minor league teams, the major minor league teams that they have, Pawtucket, Portland, Salem, are all in playoffs as we speak. The reason I mention that, that's nice to know, but when you have that kind of momentum going in your organization, eventually it'll filter up to the big club in Boston. And what I'd like to pose my sports buff grandson is, where do the Sox go from here?
Well, I think we're heading towards an offseason. They're not going to make the playoffs. I think that's pretty clear at this point. Almost 20 games back of the Orioles, who are in first place in the East right now. But, I think there's going to be a lot of moves coming the Sox way, just like at the trade deadline when the Red Sox just seemed to explode, trading away Lester and Lackey, pretty much giving up their whole rotation. Mm-hmm. I think they're in need of an ace.
Don't forget Peavy.
Oh, Peavy as well, to the Giants, who almost threw a no-hitter recently.
I know.
That's just what
Second
happens.
time. Yeah.
But, I think they have a lot of moves headed their way right now. A name that always keeps popping up is Giancarlo Stanton, the 24-year-old power hitter. I think he would put this offense over the top from being a good offense to a great offense. I think with the addition of the Cuban center fielder Rusney Castillo, I think he would absolutely put them over the top. And if this guy Castillo can be half the players that Cespedes, Yasiel Puig, that these types of players are from Cuba.
Abreu.
Yeah, Jose Abreu out in Chicago. These are like a new breed of players that are coming from Cuba right now. And if he can be half as good as any of those guys, if we were to deal for Stanton, that'd be, I think, in my opinion, the best hitting outfield in the major leagues.
Assuming that Castillo is what we hope he'll be.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the question is, like anything else, how deep do you want to go to get him? How much do you want to mortgage to bring that player in? Because one of the more interesting stories in this is Alan Craig. Mm-hmm. Alan Craig has been a terrific player, not great, but a terrific player, solid, good RBI man in St. Louis for several years.
Mm-hmm. Career 290 average.
That's right. We got him in the big trade for Lackey. And if it turns out that he can get it done, maybe you don't have to mortgage the system to go after Stanton, and maybe you make a big play towards a pitcher or two, such as...
Well, another name that keeps popping up is Chris Sale from the White Sox.
The White Sox, yeah.
Now, the thing is with Sale and Stanton, the two of them, these two guys that we've been talking about lately, is they both are on short money. They're both extremely young, and they don't get a lot of money right now just because they haven't gotten that big contract. Mm-hmm. So I think they both have multiple years left. I think Chris Sale is at $8 million for the next 3 years and then 2 years of club option. So with that type of money, if you're to trade for Chris Sale, you still have the money to go out and hopefully, I know Red Sox fans would love it, pursue John Lester, have him come back. Or another name is James Shields, Matt Latos, just among a few that the Red Sox have shown interest in. Cole Hamels as well.
Who threw a no-hitter the other night.
Yeah, partial. Of a no-hitter. Yeah, partial. But, there's a lot of different directions the club can move in right now. They have, like you said earlier, the farm system is terrific right now. I know Mookie Betts is up with the big league club right now, but you have Mookie Betts, you have Henry Owens, you have all these prospects down in AAA and AA, and even Rusney Castillo right now is in AA. They have so many options of where they could go with all this, but like you said, if this Castillo guy pans out and Alan Craig pans out, you don't necessarily need to trade them all and kill the farm just to go after one guy.
Well, one name that surfaces as a possibility to be moved, and this is almost like a Logan Mankins thing, and I hate to say it, is Dustin Pedroia. Dustin Pedroia, no, he doesn't hit home runs like he did 3-4 years ago before he hurt his hand. But he's a guy that has been the heart and soul of the club. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that's the one position they are stocked so deep in the minors. Even with Mookie Betts, that's his best position. Pedroia has a strong contract, but not crazy relative to other second basemen of his quality. He's still a fairly young guy, lots of leadership, and for the right team, he could be a great, great asset. But it's not going to come cheap. You don't give a guy like that up. It's a scary move because sometimes, great guys become flashes in the pan, and I'd hate to see that happen, but it's possible. Who knows? The one thing I can say, baseball fans know there's a great slogan. It's called Hot Stove League. And basically that means anything that happens between the World Series and spring training. That's when all the moves, the trades, and all that sort of thing, free agency happen. I have to believe that the Hot Stove League is going to be on fire in New England this year. We have more things going on that are exciting. And whatever happens, 2015 will not be an instant replay of 2014. So we shall see. We shall see. But again, there'll be the frost on the pumpkin coming pretty quickly. And again, as I said, we're filming this right after Labor Day. And there's another sport reasonably popular called pro football that begins this Thursday, Green Bay playing Seattle. But Sunday, the Patriots begin their quest one more time. Talk to me about the Patriots.
Well, I think they've made a few moves already before the season, trading Logan Mankins for Tim Wright and a 4th-round pick. And a lot of people were really skeptical of the trade because, like you said, in trading Pedroia, that's the type of player that Mankins is. Tom Brady quoted him to be the best Patriot. Mm-hmm. Like, he's defining the organization.
Yep.
And, you know, you may not like the move looking at who's Tim Wright. He's a second-year player out of Rutgers, of all places.
Where else?
But the thing that he brings to the table, I'm not going to compare him to Aaron Hernandez because he's not Aaron Hernandez, but he's fast. He's not as big as Hernandez. He's only 220 pounds, but he's a lot taller.
Yeah.
6'4". He actually didn't even play tight end in college. He played wide receiver. So with 4.5 speed, he's not an H-back, but he can play the slot. He'll be in on passing downs. He won't be like Gronkowski. Gronkowski's a guy that you can put in there, and even if you're not throwing the ball, he's like a third tackle. He can seal the edge so well, and even when he's going out for passes, he's chipping defensive ends, and you'll see that's huge this weekend, especially against the Dolphins, because they have Olivier Vernon and Cameron Wake, two fantastic pass rushers. So Gronk will be useful in more ways than just going out for passes. He is an amazing blocker.
On offense, what do you see the possible trouble area for them?
I think, no question, it's offensive line. Mm-hmm. News came out earlier this week that Sebastian Vollmer will be moved from right tackle to left guard to fill in the lack of Logan Mankins. And I think what the move does is it gets your best 5 offensive linemen on the field. Marcus Cannon showed that he struggled at guard a little bit last year, and he really is a tackle. He's a big guy. I think he's 6'5", 340. He's a big boy. And moving Vollmer over to guard, he's also a big boy, 6'8". But I think it does get your best 5 on the line of scrimmage. That way you're not playing a Josh Klein or Jordan or Devi. A name that could pop up during the season that you'll see if Wendell or Connolly, either of the two start struggling, is Brian Stork. He was the 4th-round pick out of Florida State. He's center. And he's just a big guy. He's a big, burly guy. He was hurt he got hurt in training camp, and he just hasn't played. He played in the 4th preseason game, but that's his only action he's done.
And he looked good.
He looked good. He's very strong. He won the Remington Award for the best center in the country last year on the best team in the country. So he could be a name to watch out for, bar any injuries.
What do you think of their receivers this year?
I think they've come a long way. I like the signing of Brandon LaFell. I think he's going to be a great red zone target for Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. He's big. Even if Tim Wright doesn't fulfill the Aaron Hernandez role, that is something that you can watch out for from Brandon LaFell. He's big. He's about 220 pounds, and he's only 6'2", so he has some weight to him. Mm-hmm. And he just seemed to have gelled with Tom Brady in the red zone. Mm-hmm. When I actually went to go watch the Patriots practice one day. LaFell looked fantastic. And I think out of, 7 throws in the end zone that Brady did, he targeted LaFell 3 out of those 7 times. Mm-hmm. But along with the other wide receivers, I think that it's another year for Kenbrell Tompkins, for Aaron Dobson. I know Josh Boyce was just put on the practice squad, but you have all these young receivers that have had just another year to gel with Brady. So at the beginning of the year last year, Brady really struggled. And I don't think it was his fault you got to think of the players he had in there that he had to throw to. Even Edelman had to be a question mark. Amendola was new. That's another year for Amendola as well. So I think you're going to see him gel. Specifically, I think Tompkins and Brady have had a great connection throughout the whole preseason.
Which they have.
So I think he is going to surprise a lot of people this year, Kenbrell Tompkins. Beyond that, I think Amendola could have a great year.
If he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, I think he could have a fantastic year. Edelman, last year was his only year not getting injured, but hopefully he can stay on that track because he was just Welker and more last year, more elusive, faster, probably just as quick. It was very lucky that we signed Amendola to take the Welker role, and Amendola is more like Welker than Edelman is, but Edelman turned out to do a fine job filling in for Welker.
One of the things that I think about, last year you had a whole bunch of guys with all question marks on their back. There's no question marks with these folks. A couple of injuries, even a guy like Dobson, the only problem with him has been that foot. He had the surgery on it. He's fine. And the thing that I like, I remember years ago when they'd keep bringing these receivers in, but they were all little Smurf guys, Jabbar Gaffney and on Rashay Caldwell and many other guys, 5'9", 5'10" guys, all small. Their receivers are big now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's awful nice to have a Dobson at 6'3", LaFell at 6'3", a Tim Wright, who really is a glorified receiver at 6'4", 6'5", whatever it is, Gronkowski at 6'6". I mean, he's got some trees to throw.
Oh, yeah.
And Brady does a real good job of floating the ball out there and letting these guys go get them. Talk to me about defense.
There's been some question marks during preseason, and with the Patriots defense because no one really knows what their base defensive set is going to be. Belichick has shown over the past 2 or 3 years that he switched to a 4-3, but this preseason we've seen Chandler Jones and Rob Ninkovich start to play outside linebacker, and neither of them have done bad. Ninkovich was a linebacker before he moved to defensive end, and Chandler Jones surprised me in coverage. He actually was not that bad for a 270-pound guy. I personally think they're going to lean towards a 3-4 this year. I think that's what they did when they cut Tommy Kelly. In a 3-4, you need a mammoth in the middle, and that's what Vince Wilfork is. Tommy Kelly is not this behemoth of a guy, He's a 4-3 defensive tackle. That's really what he is. He's a 3 technique. He's not a nose tackle. And he wouldn't work as a D end. He's too big.
And slow.
So I think a name to watch out for, not week 1, but as we progress throughout the season, is Dominique Easley. He was drafted as a defensive tackle, but he could very well take on that 3-4 defensive end role. I think that would be a perfect spot for him. And across from Easley, at the other defensive end, a name that people aren't associating with defensive end would be Dante Hightower. He's a really big guy. He's about 265 pounds as a linebacker, and he's probably quicker, or not quicker, but faster than Easley. And he said during the offseason that he'd like to start getting to the passer more and be used more in blitz and stunts, and that it just seems like a great spot for him because we don't really have another guy that's like a Ty Warren or a Richard Seymour, 2 guys that were just perfect for the 3-4 defensive end, big guys. And Hightower does seem to fill that. And then your 4 linebackers starting at least would be Jamie Collins and Gerard Mayo in the middle, and Gerard Mayo as your play caller.
He's your mic man.
He's your mic, and your Will and Sam, your weak and strong side linebackers, would be Chandler Jones and Rob Ninkovich. In the secondary, it is amazing to see them have depth. This is the best secondary they've had since the Ty Law days. And
potentially better.
I think they will be better.
Yep.
Revis is at least on par with Ty Law, I would say. Something that's very interesting when you watch Revis play, he can come up and make tackles. He's not just a guy who stays back and covers. If the ball gets taken to the edge, he can come up and make a stick, which is great. And across from him, hopefully Browner, after his 4-game suspension. Browner's another guy like that who can really take it to the ball carrier, The strong safety position, at this point is a bit of a question mark, but I'm really not worried about it. With the flexibility they have in that secondary, from Revis to Brandon Browner, Logan Ryan, Kyle Arrington, Alfonso Dennard.
How about Malcolm Butler?
Malcolm Butler, who's been
who might start. Undrafted free agent out of Western Alabama, right?
Of all places, Western Alabama.
And the guy's playing his butt off out there.
Yeah. And
fearless and solid.
And in the safety, they have Nate Ebner, Deron Harmon, Patrick Chung, who they brought back from Philadelphia.
Playing well.
He is playing well. He's a guy that can come over the middle and make a big hit.
And don't forget Devin McCourty.
Yeah, Devin McCourty.
Who could be an All-Pro this year. So you could have 2 All-Pros in that defensive backfield.
Oh, absolutely.
Compare that to what they had last year, for God's sakes. Now, the thing that I kind of like about the entire team is that you actually have depth across the board.
Exactly.
And you're not picking guys up off the street and plugging them in, because what are they going to do? They're deep, they're tough, they're solid. I like the chances this year, but that's not important. As we wrap this thing up, what's your best guess for the season for the Patriots?
If I had to put all my eggs in a basket and I had to make a prediction, I would say the Patriots go 13-3 this year.
13-3.
They have a tough stretch in the middle of the season. I think it involves the Jets, Broncos, Packers, Bears, the Jets again, among other teams, and the Chargers. I think they're going to escape that whole tough part of the season with only 1 loss, and I think it'll be to Green Bay. I think they'll lose 1 game to the Jets, and a sleeper game I have them losing in the earlier parts of the year is against Cincinnati, who beat them last year in just a trench battle, 13-6.
Cincinnati's tough team.
They seem to play us well, so I think they've built the Patriots have built the team with the idea of beating Denver. They have all these weapons in the secondary to completely shut down Peyton Manning's weapons. And beyond that, they have a pass rush now, depth on defense, and now all the receivers are 1 year further along in their development. And you don't really see receivers break out until the 2nd year. That's usually when they start to come out.
True. Even Sammy Watkins, who's so great, he's already sustaining injuries, so we'll see. I'll say this to you. Everything you've said is on record right there for all time. So you can't wiggle out of it. 13-3. I like it, and we shall see. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And how about if you come back after the season and we'll do a retrospective of it?
Gladly.
Okay? Great. Folks, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Keep watching. We've got more good shows in the queue. Good night now.